Charlie Heller never intended to be a hero. He didn't live in a world of bullets and betrayals. He wasn't a field agent, a soldier, or a man trained to kill. He was a cryptographer, a quiet genius who spent his days inside the sterile halls of the CIA, buried in patterns, puzzles, and codes. While others ran covert missions across continents, Charlie sat at his desk in Virginia, breaking down algorithms and intercepting silent signals in cyberspace. His only battles were fought in the invisible war of information. But Charlie was content with this life, because when he came home each day, Sarah was there. His wife, a journalist with a radiant spirit and a fearless soul. Where Charlie was quiet and analytical, Sarah was passionate and full of color. She loved stories, the truth, and the thrill of chasing it. Together, they were two opposites who had found a perfect balance. Everything changed one gray afternoon. Sarah was in London attending a media conference, something routine. But that day, a bombing tore through the heart of the city. The death toll was staggering. Civilians, tourists, and among the names confirmed was Sarah. Charlie's world imploded. The official story came quickly, a suicide bombing, claimed by a foreign extremist group. Politicians gave speeches. News anchors repeated the script. But something about it didn't sit right with Charlie. And grief has a way of sharpening suspicion. A few weeks after the attack, Charlie received an encrypted message. No name, no trace, only a code signature from someone calling themselves Inquiline. The message included files that shouldn't exist, leaked satellite data, heavily redacted mission orders, internal CIA communication logs. As Charlie decrypted the layers, what he found broke him even more than Sarah's death. The bombing wasn't an act of terror. It had been a CIA operation. A drone strike, authorized in secret, designed to take out an alleged threat based on incomplete intelligence. The narrative about a suicide bomber was a cover. The explosion that killed Sarah had been orchestrated by his own agency. Sarah was collateral damage, a name in a report that was never meant to be seen. Charlie confronted his superiors, desperate for answers, for accountability. But the CIA shut him down, telling him to grieve and move on. The deeper he pushed, the colder the responses became. Eventually, he was warned, stop digging or disappear. But Charlie refused to let Sarah's death be brushed aside. He found the names buried in the data, 4 operatives involved in the mission. Gretchen Frank, a former Armenian counterintelligence officer, Mishka Blazik, a Belarusian arms trafficker, Elish, a mercenary from South Africa, and the man who coordinated it all, Horst Schiller, a former NATO Black Ops strategist turned ghost operative. These were the people responsible, and no one was coming for them. So Charlie decided that he would. He made an impossible demand. If the CIA wouldn't bring these people to justice, then they had to train him, give him the tools to do it himself. His supervisors thought he was mad. But Charlie had leverage. If they refused, he'd release the files. And so, reluctantly, they sent him to the farm, the CIA's elite training facility for field operatives. He was older than the recruits, out of shape, with no tactical background. But what he lacked in physical strength, he made up for with something more dangerous. Purpose. He endured brutal training, firearms, languages, surveillance, close combat. He was broken and rebuilt. He failed again and again but kept pushing. At night, he studied blueprints and dossiers, memorizing every detail about the people who had taken Sarah from him. And then, without a word, Charlie vanished from the program. His file disappeared. His badge was revoked. As far as the CIA was concerned, he no longer existed. But Charlie was very much alive, and his mission had begun. He tracked Gretchen Frank to Paris, where she was living under an alias as a biotech consultant. He infiltrated her lab and tampered with its environmental controls, triggering a lockdown. She panicked and fled through the city. As she ran into the street, a delivery van ended it all in a second. Charlie watched from the shadows, cold, silent, and unmoved. Next was Mishka Blazik in Madrid, hiding in a glass-walled penthouse, surrounded by bodyguards and luxury. Charlie got in as a party bartender. He laced Mishka's drink with a toxin that paralyzed him in seconds. He drowned face down in his rooftop pool while the music played on. Then came Elish in Romania. His private estate was a fortress, but Charlie was patient. He mapped the grounds, disabled the surveillance, and planted explosives in the panic room. When Elish entered it during a staged breach, Charlie sealed the doors and watched it burn. By now, the agency realized what Charlie was doing. Director Alex Moore issued a capture order. Colonel Henderson, the very man who trained Charlie, was sent to bring him in. But Charlie was always 2 steps ahead. And as his kills mounted, so did his isolation. Each death brought less closure, more emptiness. He began seeing Sarah in his dreams. Not as a memory, but as a reminder of who he used to be. Somewhere inside, he knew he was losing pieces of himself. His only link to humanity was Inqualine, the whistleblower who had started it all. She revealed her identity to Charlie in Istanbul, Elena Vostrikov, a former Russian intelligence analyst who had lost her husband in a CIA black op. They were 2 broken souls bound by betrayal. But they had no time. The CIA and the Russian FSB both found them. A firefight broke out. Elena was shot. In her final moments, she gave Charlie one last encrypted file. Inside was the final target, Horst Schiller's current location. Schiller was living on a private yacht in the Baltic Sea, shielded by diplomatic immunity and surrounded by ex-military guards. Charlie slipped aboard under cover of night. He could have killed him easily, but instead he did something smarter. He uploaded the entire cache of mission data, including Schiller's war crimes, to Interpol, the United Nations, and several international media outlets. Then he triggered the yacht's distress signal. Finnish authorities intercepted it in international waters. Schiller was arrested. The scandal erupted. Director Moore was summoned before Congress. A classified network of black ops unraveled in the public eye. Charlie didn't wait for thanks. He slipped away again, this time for good. Months later, he could be found in a dusty hangar, finishing a project he and Sarah had dreamed about. A small Cessna plane they once promised they'd fly together. Alone now, he took to the skies. No destination, no mission, just peace. He hadn't become a killer. He had stayed somehow human, because in the end, Charlie Heller wasn't a soldier. He was never a spy. He was just a man who loved someone so much, he risked everything for justice. And somehow, in a world filled with professionals who kill for a living, it took an amateur to finally do what was right.